11. Member, you have the floor.
I will be long, Madam Speaker, because I see a lot of callers that are giving me heebie-jeebies. Madam Speaker, as the Deputy Premier said, 8 years ago, the people of Bermuda put their trust in us. And once again. And a few months ago, they put a trust in us again. However, trust must be earned, not just words, not just deeds, but leadership, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, 7 years ago, when we were in the house that enslaved persons built, someone had to stand to their feet and point out the hypocrisy of having a colonizer's name associated in our Emancipation Day celebrations. Some resisted the facts that the two should not mix. Some thought it was blasphemy. Others tried to justify why it should remain. But the reality is, Madam Speaker, that you cannot celebrate emancipation one day and then celebrate somebody who was on the way to colonize people in America the next day. The two just don't mix. So, Madam Speaker, if my memory serves me correctly, in the year 2020, in your capacity as the Minister of Culture, you saw fit to change the name from that colonizer's name to the name of our national hero, undoubted, more than even Bermuda's national hero, a hero for enslaved persons around the world, Mary Prince. I won't go into the history of Mary Prince, but Mary Prince had to stand her ground. Mary Prince, for those who don't know, was born in Devonshire, Brackish Point as they called it, and she was moved over to out Spanish Point, where Dandytown Club is now. And then she was taken by force to the Turks and Caicos Islands by the Darrow family, who along with families such as the Frith family, the Lightbourne family, the Ashwood family, the Butterfield family, the Swan families, and the Talbot families, took thousands of enslaved Bermudians down to Turks and Caicos Island to rake salt. At one point, they took 1/4 of the population. It's in the history books. You see, Madam Speaker, the fact is, we may not have plantations like, I don't know, in Virginia or Tennessee, but we were enslaved. Madam Speaker, if you allow me, I'd like to read something from historian Cyril Packwood, somebody from St. George's. This is what Mr. Packwood had to say. It is true that many Bermudian slaves did not come directly from Africa, but from an intermediary destinations such as the West Indies. He goes on to say, slaves arrived in Bermuda from ships trading in the West Indies, from pirate ships, and from shipwrecks. You see, the fact is, Madam Speaker, a journey from Bermuda to Africa would take a little bit of time. A journey to Bermuda to another Caribbean island, a lot shorter time. So the reality is the majority of enslaved persons didn't come here directly from Africa. They came from other Caribbean islands. So what is my point, Madam Speaker? We may not geographically be in the Caribbean. There's no arguing about that. We're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, North Atlantic Ocean. But we are of the Caribbean, Madam Speaker. There's no doubt in that. People of all complexions are of the Caribbean. Not everybody in Bermuda, but not everybody from the Caribbean is, let's say, my complexion. You see, Madam Speaker, around the world, global organizations have formed by people, persons, countries in geographic areas. In the European Union, we have the EU. In European countries form the EU. North American countries form NAFTA. African countries formed the African Union, and Pacific countries formed a bloc called APAC. So in 1973 onward, islands and countries in the Caribbean, because not every CARICOM member is an island, formed a bloc called CARICOM, Caribbean Community, CARICOM. Like any other organization, there's ups and downs. There's no perfect union. There's no everybody agreeing on everything. But there's some benefits to unity, Madam Speaker. In 2015, CARICOM, along with other countries, helped to form the Paris Agreement, which forced industrial countries to pledge to contribute to funding for climate change for those countries such in the Caribbean and the Pacific Ocean that will be affected adversely by climate change. In 2018, something that we discussed today, the United Kingdom, our colonizers, attempted to force an order in council on us to have public register of beneficial ownerships. The biggest money launderers want to put us out of business. But be that as it may, CARICOM came to our aid, not just us, but Cayman Islands, Virgin Islands, came to our aid to stand up for us. More recently, Madam Speaker, in 2025, earlier this year, the President of the United States, another colonizer country, attempted to put a levy, a tax on oil ships that were made in China, as he says, and charge $1.5 million per voyage. So that would have translated to increased costs for everything in Bermuda. CARICOM, via the CARICOM private sector organization, CPSO, along with others, successfully lobbied the United States government, and that got, I'm going to say, a stay of execution. But my point is, Madam Speaker, is that those are three clear examples of what CARICOM has done to help to benefit not just Bermuda, but other islands. So as I close, Madam Speaker, as I talked about a young lady, there is a young Bermudian lady in our midst now who is doing her best to bridge the geographic gap between Bermuda and other Atlantic and Caribbean islands. At times she comes under fire from others, but I encourage her to stand her ground. I encourage her that as she gets the information, to share it with the people. And I encourage her to help educate the people that despite the geographic difference, we are of the Caribbean. And I'll close with a quote, as Mary Prince said, "To be free is very sweet." Minister Lightbourne, stand your ground. Thank you.